Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. I'm Ema Roloff, and I have Mike with me today. Before we dive into our topic, can you give everybody an introduction?
Yes, thanks, Emma. I joined the insurance industry 7 years ago, but before that, have run digital transformation projects in the motor industry, auto industry, and in global hotels. And I've got the scars. So when I talk about transformation, it's both as now today a technology provider, but also with sympathy and empathy for those who manage these projects and including their day-to-day work. My speciality is claims, but I work also in the wider field of core technology, core systems, and of course claims, and the whole transformation aspect of insurance.
So, with that experience, where I want to start our discussion today is kind of looking at what do you think is a prerequisite for embarking on a digital transformation, whether that's coming specific from the insurance industry or also some of the other experience that you mentioned?
A prerequisite is to know why it's important. And I fall into the trap often of thinking that technology is a solution, is the answer, but it's a means to an end. And really, I'm guided in many ways by Geoffrey Moore, whose authorship of Crossing the Chasm was so vital for technology providers. It's knowing where you are, where you want to be, what others are doing, where you want to end up, and having the vision and leadership and the culture and the resourcing and the people to help get there. People are the key element. And, there's a saying in Northern England, there's naught as queer as folk, because people are generally resistant to change unless they understand why it's necessary, what the benefits are to them as well as their customers. So knowing why is really essential, and then it can lead on to those other aspects I've just mentioned. I think we'll talk about as well.
Yeah. So of course, anybody that knows me knows I love talking more about the people side of change. And just like what you were talking about, that it's so easy to get distracted by that shiny technology object and kind of lose sight of why we're doing what we do. And so I guess I want to dig into a little bit more of some of those lessons that you've learned along the way through facilitating digital transformations, and maybe talk about where you see the most challenge coming forward or the biggest challenge in the world of digital transformation.
Definitely a big challenge is getting buy-in across the enterprise, across the organization. I think many technology providers underestimate the challenge their buyers have getting everybody behind the project. And when, for example, I did a transformation of reservation systems in a hotel group, global hotel group, it took over a year to visit the different continents, from Europe, North America, Asia, and to know the cultural differences and to tell people why we were doing it, why it was important, what would happen if we didn't do it, seeking their opinions, leveraging their skills and knowledge, but also leading and getting a a, a committal, and their own motivation to achieve the success. And that takes time. And if you rush into a project without that and strong leadership across the organization, not just at the top, but deep and wide, then transformation is vulnerable to those who don't understand it, who won't necessarily deliberately sabotage, but nevertheless will get in the way. And that's when things don't happen. And that's when things go over time, over budget, and don't meet spec.
So we've talked about this idea that, again, technology isn't necessarily the driving factor but it's an enabler when we're looking at our transformation efforts. And choosing what technology you're going to use and who you're going to partner with is a big part of bringing it all together. We need to have that central why, but we also need the tools to help us get there. So in your experience, while you've been going through that vendor selection and really looking at who you're going to partner with as a part of these transformations, has it been driven by strictly the technology behind that, or are there other factors that have helped you make that vendor selection in the past?
Of course, the technology is important. And before I engaged with companies, I would research them. And if it didn't look right, it's unlikely that I'd meet them. However, given that so many companies have options that could do the job, thereafter it was a matter of trust. Now, one thing I've noticed as a buyer of technology is that too many salespeople in particular are more interested in their own numbers, their own targets, their own revenues than my numbers, the KPIs that I want to achieve, the goals I have to achieve, the 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 challenge given to me by my CEO to achieve my success. And it's knowing that somebody's interested in what I have to achieve and is interested in giving me help to get there. And one example of that is in the hotel chain I referred to is one vendor gave me a full-time employee for over a year to help me complete the business plan. And I had to put a capital, CapEx and OpEx plan for 5 years. And it went over 35 million. And I needed that help to get it through my own board and all my own people as well. And that was that gave me trust that this company was interested, of course, in themselves, but they were interested in me as well.
Finding those win-win opportunities, I think, is so critical. And I actually just made a post about it today on the feet of a ITC, and how much I think that the industry is starting to wake up to this idea of partnerships and collaboration and finding those, win-win opportunities to really drive transformation within the industry. So I'm certainly excited to see what's to come and what I'm calling insuretech 2.0 as we keep moving forward with innovation within the industry.
Exactly. And together with the right technology, the right resource, and the right capabilities, and a recognition of the time it takes. So I might be able to implement sort of phase one, if you like, the minimal viable product in even a few months, but it could take me a year, 2 years to actually complete the project. And Jeffrey Moore talks about a stairway to heaven, knowing where you are today and the end game, and that you can't get there straight away. There's these steps, the stairway to heaven. And that's where that trust enables you to get through. There'll always be challenges. Things won't always go right. And that's when having a true partner squares up with you to look at what's going wrong as well as what's going right and find ways around it. And, it's always hard. It's never easy, despite what you see on the web pages and on the CoNatural, this end-to-end solution, easy to deploy, no code, low code. And well, it doesn't work that way. Technology is an enabler. It's not the answer itself.
We can make it easier, but we probably can't make it 100% painless.
No, if that were painless, there'd be no need for any of us, would there?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me for the conversation today. And for anybody joining us, please make your way over to Mike's LinkedIn. He does a lot of writing in the insuretech space and great insights to keep a watch on. But thank you for joining us, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Leading Change. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe and come back weekly for more expert interviews on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.